Hello, welcome to Creative Minds Up. I just had a great conversation with two very positive artists, with Lisa Keegan-Hill and Sara Hood. I have to tell you, it was really nice conversation. We were talking about the creative potential that we all have, how to be more positive and turn those negative thoughts into very positive thinking. We were talking about some of the misconceptions about the autism and dyslexia, and we're also talking about this change that we can do, how all of us have this ability to actually make a small difference, but when you start somewhere, then you realize you can make bigger and bigger difference in lives of other people and also in your own life. But before we start, I would like to ask you for a small thing. Whenever in this podcast there is an idea or an advice that you actually applied in your life, something that made a big difference for you, or even small, please share it. We were talking about it with Sara and Lisa, how sometimes those little words of sharing how any advice or a passion or energy that people are sharing, how it actually influenced our decisions or gave us inspiration to create works. When you are sharing that with the people who provided that advice, that actually makes that person, in that case me and Lisa and Sara, feel very nice, and we know that we should keep doing this because people are sharing. So please let me know in the comments, or feel free to contact Sara or Lisa. Link to their social media and their websites in the description. And one last thing, I encourage you again to join our creative community. We gather visual artists and musicians and poets, writers, any type of creative individuals or people interested in creative thinking. Please feel free to join our creative community. Share your works, share your inspirations, share your positivity, and there we can grow together and make this world a more creative place. Okay, and now let's start the podcast. Hello, today I again have two guests with me, but this time my guests are Lisa and Sara. Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hiya, I'm Lisa. I'm a ceramic artist. I just finished my MA in ceramics, but I'm an ex-psychotherapist, so a lot of my work is about people. So I was a psychotherapist for 20 years, and I'm happily now living as an artist, enjoying my creativity. Yes.
Now, voice to Sara.
Hi, so my name's Sarah. I'm a neurodivergent artist working in ceramic sculpture mainly, but I do paintings and things as well. I'm focusing on ceramic sculpture at the moment and trying to work out how to use that as a powerful tool to push forward ideas and sort of some social change, I think is where I'm going, really.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a few things that actually three of us have in common, so we will discuss it for sure. But first, I would like to talk about your background, Lisa, as a person who used to be a therapist. Can you tell more about this and maybe how it influences your practice somehow?
Absolutely. I mean, I worked for 20 years with people who'd experienced trauma, especially in childhood, but also in adulthood, because, and it's hard to get one without the other, but if you do, it's similar. And I've always been interested in people. I suppose that's where, when I was a child, I loved people watching. And I always wanted to understand what people were doing, why they were thinking, why they were doing what they were doing. So being a therapist was a natural progression for me, I think, and loved the work, absolutely loved it, and had to stop because I got ill about 5 years ago. I found out I had a brain aneurysm, so I had to stop working because my memory doesn't work as it did as a therapist. And I was incredibly depressed at that point, I think is the right word, because I loved my job as a psychotherapist. It was a vocation. It wasn't just a job. And it took me a long time to come to terms with that I couldn't do it anymore. And part of that process was picking up a bag of clay, which I'd never done anything like that before. I wasn't creative. I mean, I know I was really, but in my head, I wasn't creative. I couldn't do art. I was told when I was 4, I remember it very plainly, in my junior school, that I was rubbish at drawing and should never do it again. Yeah. I think around that time I threw away any ideas of drawing or anything to do with art. I thought, well, that's not me. And I think, sorry, I could go on forever, but I think I came from quite a shame-based background. So I think when you allow yourself to be creative, you're giving yourself to the world, aren't you? You're putting yourself out there. And I think when you come from a shame-based background, the first sign that I would be shamed for this, it really went out of the window. Creativity, definitely. So yeah, it's sort of been a full circle journey from being 4 to love. I used to love being creative, but then very suddenly putting the brakes on to now, fully embracing my creativity. But part of my process in the past sort of 2 years on the course has been getting to grips with that psychologically, allowing myself to move through the shame of, putting myself out there, moving through, moments of like complete, just wanting to hide myself away, imposter syndrome. Anyway, there's a whole heap of list, but I think that's where my work comes from. It comes from my history of people watching, my understanding of people through working as a psychotherapist, and a real desire to give something back, I think, and to help people to understand things that I guess I've understood over the years, and knowing that we all need connection.
Mm.
So I feel like through my...
Those are a few things that we will discuss for sure. But now I'm wondering, in case of you, Sarah, what are the reasons that you create? Like, what do you feel is your purpose for creating art?
Well, it comes from a few different things. Firstly, for me, it's therapy. It's therapeutic for myself. It means that I can process things that I struggle with. It's an outlet, I suppose. But I've used it for a long time, personally for myself, before I went to uni and developed it into a career. To deal with the difficulties of being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world, and also to deal with the strain of having PTSD and trying to sort of take this very negative trauma that's happened and turn it into something that is positive. And the experience itself is never going to be positive, and living with it afterwards isn't positive. But I think if we can break down some of the taboos around it, if I can use my work to explain to other people that it's okay to feel like this, and it's a natural progression to go through these different things, but it's not something we should be ashamed of. It's not something we should try and hide. And if I can make my work help people to open up and talk and have a conversation, then we're taking the stigma away. And for me, that feels like taking away the power of the trauma or of the issues or of the things that we're struggling with, and giving us back our power over our lives and over what we're dealing with. And if I can make a piece of work that will help one person look at that and go, do you know what, I'm not alone, and I can actually do this, then that's I've achieved
job done. Job done, even if it's just one. But it's already been more than one, though, I'll tell you.
Every one person that adds on to that is another just success story, because I think both of us have felt alone. Both of us have felt alone at different period,
Definitely.
through different parts of our lives, and that, to take that away, to take someone's loneliness away, and to make it something that they feel that they can talk to somebody about, or even people that live with somebody who's dealing with neurodivergency issues where they're struggling to not be marginalised, or if they live with somebody who's dealing with PTSD or any other sort of physical ailments, if it means that they can then say, do you know what, maybe I'll broach a conversation with them, that would again take that loneliness away.
Absolutely.
So it's not just aimed at people who are struggling, it's also aimed at people who have a loved one who's struggling. So outreach.
For those people who don't know what is neurodiversity, can you please define it and also discuss more how it influences your creative process?
So, I mean, scientifically, it's differences in the wiring in your brain, essentially. It's different ways of your brain functioning in thought processes, in how you'd problem solve, in how you can deal socially. It affects a lot of different things in your life. So there's different ones. There's autism, which is a spectrum, a huge spectrum as we're now finding out. And there's a lot more women being diagnosed now because women tend to be much better at masking than men do, just because of how we are. Men and women do work differently. Our brains work differently. And this is something there's more research in now, which is brilliant. There's ADHD. And also there's a crossover between, they're now realising that people can have autism and ADHD, and that then is another set of neurodivergencies. There's things like dyslexia. And dyslexia it's a difficult one because there's a lot of problems that come with it, a lot of issues where you can struggle with things, but it also means, and then same with autism and ADHD, it means that you think in a different way. So you think out of the box. There's a lot more openness for creative problem solving, rather than knowing that 2 + 2 = 4. It's, well, maybe this actually happens, or maybe that. He opens the box up. So you have one problem and there's a room of people who are trying to think of a solution. And if you stick a bunch of neurodivergents in that room, you're going to have several different solutions, and none of them are going to be even slightly similar, but several of those.
So true. Yeah.
And it's incredible. I think we only class it as a drawback because it is hard to fit in the box that society sort of runs
the normal world.
Everything sort of runs in a certain way, and it's difficult to fit yourself in when you don't fit in that box. But there's so many positives to functioning in a different way. The drawbacks are the social.
They're superpowers.
It's endless. And I think it sort of comes hand in hand with creativity. It's not always creativity is in art. Sometimes it's creativity is in, this is broken, how can I fix it? There's a million different ways it could be implemented. So, I mean, on the other hand, there's PTSD, which does create because it involves the hypothalamus, it creates issues where your brain is chemically changed, but it sets off your fight or flight response all the time. And that causes issues physically with your nervous system and mentally, where you go into fight or flight mode and you have no control over it. And that isn't, whilst that is a type of neurodivergency because your brain has changed, that doesn't really come with positives that I have found. That is a disability, definitely. But that, with it setting your fight or flight response off, since I've had that, I've realised that other neurodivergencies like autism also have that effect. When there's a negative stimulus, it sets off your fight or flight response. So I've found sort of, living with these conditions, and I have relatives who have the same conditions, that fight or flight response is prevalent everywhere. And that's been a theme in my work, it's really important.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely.
I want to highlight the point where you were mentioning that this neurodiversity actually can be something very beneficial in, like, for example, group thinking. Personally, I find it very, very fascinating. Probably, like, I also have some of the weird stuff happening in my brain, but I've never thought about it in a way that it would somehow limit me. I don't think about those things in a negative way. But when I see in other people that they are somewhere in the spectrum of neurodivergence, I find such friendships much more exciting, because if you talk with let's say normal person, then you have like those normal small talks, very kind of everyday boring interactions. But find someone a little bit awkward, who has like completely different way of thinking, and then this is when you have very interesting ideas. You
Yeah.
Through that conversation, you are able to look at the world through different lens. So in my case, for me, those people, I shouldn't say those people, but I find people who are somewhere on the spectrum the most interesting to not only to talk with. I like to build meaningful conversations and friendships with them, not only to kind of study people on the spectrum, but to not only, I don't feel like, oh, I am someone to help them. I just find those people who have different type of sensitivity, and sometimes I think it also helps me to understand myself. So yeah, in my opinion, that's a really cool and great thing. And in case of creative thinking, the way how you said 2 plus 2, it's not necessarily 4.
Yeah.
That can be a really cool way of thinking out of the box.
Yeah, but I think also there can be a sort of margin where it's them versus us. But the brilliant thing is that we have neurotypical people who think in the box way, and their brain works at standard, we'll say as standard. And then you've got neurodivergent people. And I think when you mix the two together, it's really powerful, because neurotypical people tend to be much better with organisation and timekeeping and sort of grounding. And neurodivergent people are a bit off the cuff. And they also, sometimes I need reining in a little bit. This time we need to do this, Or I need telling that idea is a little bit crazy. Let's rein it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But other times, I mean, there's people who are thinking too calmly, and you're like, no, do you know what? Get excited about this. Do something. Push yourself.
Yeah.
And you can help them grow. So I think there's
benefit from us being, and I think it's misunderstanding, is it? Misinformation, ignorance, whatever you want to call it, that there seems to be this divide of normal and so weird, but it's not weird, different.
So let's talk about this misunderstanding. What, in your opinion, are the biggest misconceptions about what is autism, what is dyslexia?
Oh, go on.
it's the list, isn't it? Well, through media, things like films, TV, you often get a standardized version of things, especially like autism and ADHD. A lot of the time, people with ADHD are sort of put forward as having lots of dependency issues on people, on drugs. And whilst, yes, that can happen and that does happen, it doesn't mean it happens for everybody, and it doesn't mean it happens to that extent for everybody.
Yeah.
Same with autism. People are often shown as very rigid, extremely socially awkward. And yes, that does happen. But generally speaking, it happens in a gradient. It can be better or worse. And that doesn't mean it's terrible for one person all the time. They can have good days and bad days. They can have days where they're coping better and they're managing to mask easier. And they can have days when they're really not coping. And that's dependent on so many different stimuli, life experiences, all sorts of different things. I think the thing is that every single neurodivergency and every single neurotypical person is on a spectrum.
Yeah,
and there's no box. And that's the problem. We're always trying to fit in a box, fit in.
Well, I think society's kind of made it that way, huh?
Yeah.
It's like, you do this, you do that, you go to work, you do this, you have 2.4 children, you live in a house, you have a husband, all of those sort of normal things. And so that is sent on the TV, it's sent in media that is the way it should be.
Yeah.
It's boring, that sounds so dull.
That is creative.
Yeah.
most common finds, that is creative living.
Yeah.
So you're living in a way that's not how you've been prescribed or how you've been told you have to.
Yeah.
It's a way that's authentic. And I think that is creativity as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think what I was just like remembering as a kid, I didn't feel like I was like everyone else. I was really different, the way I saw the world. And I didn't understand that. I just thought there was something wrong with me. That's how I internalized it as a kid. I can't let people see all of this. It's a bit weird. Like, I labeled myself, I think, because of the norm that's out here, knowing that wasn't quite where I was. And so it took a long time to get to the place where it's, oh yeah, I know now why that was so hard. I know why being in social situations and do small talk with people is impossible.
Yeah.
However, if I'm talking about something I'm really passionate about, I can sit here for hours and do that, you know.
Which is why talking about it is important, because then people don't feel secluded.
Exactly.
They feel like they are, that they're not wrong. They're just different, and that is right. It's just right in a different way.
Yeah, definitely.
So now I would like to talk a little bit more about you, Lisa, because I remember before starting our podcast, you were mentioning about how our childhood's experience can influence our creativity in general, and also some of the things that are going on internally. And especially as a person who used to be a therapist. How to say it? Therapist or therapist? Therapist. I was still learning, always learning.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me more about it? And also, how was it in your case?
Okay. I said a little bit before about that, the shaming as a child and me deciding that. And I think that was also part of the neurodiversity. That was something that was different, and I had to hide it quick, So getting in touch with it, I'm just grateful I was a therapist. So I'd done my own work as a therapist. I had therapy for the whole time I was a therapist, because I think it's important that you keep a check on your stuff before you go and work with someone else. So, I've had a lot of therapy. And then having to stop work and then finding creativity and going on the master's course with very little experience of art in any sense of the word. It was terrifying because that's what was brought alive in me. And I sort of knew it because of my background. So this fear, the shame, the fear of someone going, that's rubbish. And like living in that real sort of tension of really wanting to get into this and really throw myself into the process of learning how to do clay in the way I wanted to do clay, and living alongside that edge of me that was like, I don't want people to see what I do. I don't want people to judge me, judge my work. I work from within me, so what comes out is generally, emotional, and so it's scary as hell to put myself out there and do that. So for me, because I have my own process and I've been through healing other parts of my life, but never creativity. So it was as if I had to do the whole journey again with creativity from scratch. So, so it was, I don't know how to really put it into words. I mean, the great people on the course who support you, but it was just such a slow and difficult process. And I don't think many people really, I think you were probably one of the only ones who knew at the time what I was really going through in that process. And sorry, I feel like I've gone off on a tangent. I'm not answering your question, Jacob.
You are. And can you actually tell me, what do you mean by creativity? Because as a creativity researcher, I've noticed that almost everyone has a different definition for it. What does it mean for you?
For me, I think we were talking about this yesterday, weren't we? Like, we are creative beings, and that is what I think we are as humans. And so it's an expression of what we have internally to bring it to the outside. That to me is what creativity is. It's an outward expression of my internal world, my internal experiences.
It's your authentic voice.
My authentic voice that isn't hindered by thought process or trying to logic. Yeah.
And you, Sarah, how do you see it?
I mean, yeah, it is exactly as Lisa's saying. Your authentic voice, it's who you are on a deeper level, because I suppose we've got two selves in a way. There's the self where we are internalized, where we talk to ourselves, we have our internal monologue or our internal thoughts, or we have that internal process. And there's what we project outwards, so how we speak to people, what we would actually say to people or do. And creativity is about shedding any shell that we have and any masking that we have and anything that we're trying to hide so that we can perform in society, and just being honest. It's honesty, really, isn't it?
I love that you said that there's two parts. I think I've got about 35 parts. Well, yeah, there's two parts of me. No, I wish. But yeah, it's that being real and allowing that creativity out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Allowing your true voice.
Absolutely.
And I think there's something really magical about using your hands to do it, and not, you know, I mean, people do sing and use their voice that way, but for me, it's like using my hands and not my mouth. I've used my mouth for all those years being a therapist and talking about things and, you know, going over and over things. So my hands do the talking.
But it can be a flow state, can't it? So it can be a state where you're almost not thinking. You have a thought in the beginning and then you start working, and you sort of shut down the logical part of your brain and you just carry on producing by using it. And you are just, you are letting that out. It is emotional and it is visceral and it's it's personal, really personal. And it's intimate as well, I suppose.
Definitely.
It's probably the most intimate thing that we can physically do to create something. Other than babies, that can create something that's, you know, real.
Tangible, that's come just from you. I mean, it's magical, isn't it?
To take a feeling and make it into an object or a piece of music or a piece of writing, to take an emotion and somehow describe that in a way, either visual or otherwise, it's just powerful.
Yeah, and I think for me, the what creativity did for me when I finally, you know, allowed myself to play with clay, was it shut my mind down.
So finish.
No, just say my mind just went still, and that to me, it's like getting into the flow, getting into that, you know, that this is what my soul is creating, not what my brain is creating. This is what my soul and body are doing as a thing that I'm not quite sure of, and it'll come at me because I work quite organically with my work, so I allow the faces to come out, and I respect that these people want to be seen. So I have a bit of a weird way of working.
I actually want to talk right now more about the works that you create. So I will put the links to your websites and your social media in the descriptions. So if anyone is interested, you can see the works of Lisa and Sara. But please, right now, try to describe to me your practice, not only intellectually with the ideas behind it, but also like literally, what are the things that you create, and why did you, because I know that both of you are doing ceramics, why did you decide to go that way? And how those internal experiences, what is your strategy to try to externalize them? So I think right now we can start with Sara.
So everything that I make, everything that I create, it starts off as my personal experience. It's something I've been through or I am experiencing now. It's an emotion, a feeling, a thought, something that's happened, or a memory. Memories are very strong as well, and it could be a positive memory or a negative memory, and just something that's there and I'm thinking about or is in the back of my mind. And I'll take that, I'll look through, I'll do research, I'll research through old photographs of around that time or around that period or around that memory, and I'll take those and I'll turn those into drawings and paintings, and then from those I will start developing sculptures, and they can take several different forms. Sometimes they're completely animal forms, and usually it will be a rabbit.
Why rabbit?
I associate with that a lot. I talked earlier about the fight or flight response. So it's the fight, flight, and freeze response. So if I'm representing those in my work, I'll have quite literal representations. So for the fight response, there'll be antlers, something from a stag, or so it's that sort of fight. For flight, there'll be wings attached. Usually bird wings, And for the freeze response, I generally use rabbit ears or an entire rabbit. And that, the freeze response is the one I resonate with the most. Also, I'm Chinese zodiac year of the rabbit, which sort of just fits for me. But those are ways for me to visualize these responses that don't have a visual. They're a way for me to quantify that in this moment, I feel like I need to run, or this feeling or this time period makes me feel frozen. I can't think about it. I can't move. And getting that out in that visual way is very powerful for me. It helps me to process it. Just like in talk therapy, it's a way for me to visually work through a thought or a feeling or an emotion or a memory, and to put that in a different box in my brain by making it physical. And a lot of the time, once I've made a sculpture, there is something about working with the clay with your hands that is very therapeutic. It's calming. It uses up so many of your senses that your brain is allowed to take that and process it. I'm not thinking about how hot or cold I am or I've got an itch on my leg. I'm thinking just about this work and I'm zoned in, and that allows that therapeutic process. But also, once I've finished a piece, it doesn't say, if I make a piece about my trauma, my PTSD, it doesn't say anything about the trauma. It's a beautiful visual piece that speaks to me in certain ways, and conveys an issue, but it does it in a positive light. It's a positive piece by the time it's done. And I'll often, once I've finished one, I'll sit with it for quite a while. I'll look at it. I'll sort of sit with that until it feels that I'm done, that it's right, that I have finished processing what I was processing. And that's when it is the end of it, I suppose. And that's when I can let it go then. It can be sold, it can go to an exhibition to say what it has to say there. That's the process for me.
That's an interesting idea of creating art as processing those experiences that you have. That's really cool. In my case, I usually process the positive experiences when I feel inspired. This is when I create works. But in case of something more negative, I know some people, and I really admire people who actually have the drive, have this energy to create and turn those experiences that are not necessarily very cheerful into something very personal. But in my case, I was trying it a few times, but feel very weird about it. But maybe I should give it a go. But anyway, I wanted to say, for those people who've never tried clay before, I also come from the background of using a lot of clay. It's really, really cool thing. It gives you so much satisfaction, and this way of like sensitivity, touching it and turning your ideas into three-dimensional works. That's really cool. If you've never tried it, I really recommend.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, now let's go to you, Lisa. What about your practice?
So my creative process is sort of similar in some ways, but completely different. so it's sort of like the end result is sort of the same. We still want to say things with our work, but for me, I don't want to think about it. Like, it's like, I don't have particularly, I might think, so for my exhibition that we just had at uni, I was like, I want to make Gaia. So, Mother Earth, I want to make that for my exhibition. And that's as far as it goes. So I have a thought and I go, right, that's what I want to make. So then I might have ideas about Gaia and think about what she might look like. But I don't. Then I sit down with the clay and I allow it to come. I can't think. I can think, but I don't want to. But I think this is part of me having thought for a long time and using my brain in that way, and that I just don't want to. So when my brain shuts off and I have no more thinking, I'm in the flow, or I'm in that space of where I'm at peace, and then it comes. So I allow my hands. And what really surprises me about it, and what has over the past 2 years, is how many times you make things. When you don't think about it, you still make the things that are in here, that are in your body, memories. I mean, I think I made 3 people in my first year at uni, and all of them had half a leg. And, and I kept thinking, this is weird, but just leave it. And then it's only with hindsight. So my father-in-law had his leg amputated. Obviously, that's what was coming out. And my daughter broke a leg. So, you know, without even thinking I'm going to make people with no legs, I didn't think that at all, but that's what I kept making. Like, okay. So I think it comes out somatic. My creative process is somatically what comes is going to come. And it's important for me not to think about that because I think I spent my lifetime overthinking as well. So having that presence of calm in my mind is, for me, the only way I want to create. And I think that as well has got to do with the brain thing that I had. That what I did once I'd gone through that, I thought I'm just only going to do things that bring me complete joy from now on. I'm not. If something doesn't make me feel okay, I'm going to not do it. I'm not going to follow it. I'm not going to make myself feel uncomfortable and do things I don't want to do. And the way I found was through clay, through like the tactility of touching the earth, because that's what we're doing. We're touching the earth that we all come from, that we all go to. And there's something really magical about that. For clay, you know, with clay, for me, it feels, you know, forming things that were never there before. You know, it's magical. So that's I think that is my process. If my mind's in there, I'm not making. I won't. I'll like walk away. So it's sort of quite a different approach, but not at all, because I think the results are the same, aren't they?
That's the joy of creativity.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
Yeah,
there's no linear path to it. There's no one way, and there never should be.
No,
otherwise you're not making your work.
Exactly, you've got to find your way. Yeah.
You just mentioned a very interesting strategy to deal with like those negative periods that we all have. You mentioned that you decided to do only things that bring you joy. Can you please, both of you, try to identify what are some of the other things that you practice, or you know that some of your friends practice when you have a creative block? You feel like in a box, frustrated. What are the other ways to try to overcome it?
Do you want to go? Yeah. You go on, you start. I'll go after you.
Well, if I'm struggling creatively, I'll drop everything. You can't push it. If it's not happening, it's not happening. So I will just leave it and walk away. And I've got plenty of distractions. I've got kids. I've got housework to do, you know, that I try not to. But the other thing is, if I can't work creatively, it's usually because I'm struggling with something. And for me, a great resource every time is going away from where I live, which is in the middle of an estate, away from that area completely, away from towns and cities and into the middle of nowhere, and going for a walk. And I always have a little sketchbook, a tiny little one that I keep in my pocket. And if I feel like sketching whilst I'm out there, I'll sketch a little pile of rocks. For some reason, I really like sketching little piles of rocks, just the ways they're stacked up. It's something simple. It's something you don't really have to consider. You're just looking at the lines and sort of noting that down. But that can help. If I go for a walk and I don't feel like sketching, I don't sketch. But I get that walk, I get out of the area. It's just letting your mind reset, I think, or at least get to a base level where you can communicate creatively again. Because you do end up with burnout and you end up struggling. And I think the more you push it and the more you try to work on it, the more you hit a wall. For me, anyway.
Yeah. I think I really get that. And I think for me, because of how I did the masters about my creative process, like what I learned was I had to just make something, even if it wasn't right. And what I also had to do was get hold of little faces that I'd made and throw them against the wall. So do something really and I've got a piece that I made and I love it because that's what it is. It's literally about 50 little faces that I'd made and then thrown them against the wall. You know, I mean, so to do something like that, because when we're blocked, it's something emotional going on with it. There's something in us that we don't want to kind of come out, really, I guess, during creativity, or there's something that we're blocking or something that we're not seeing. So for me, I need to push through that to find out what it is. Or that's been my process on the masters. I've had to keep going. So, I've hit a piece. I made a piece with, a bust, head, shoulders, and then got a piece of wood and knocked his head off, because it just wasn't going right. So I had to do something. Obviously, there's times I think I need to just stop and walk away and not do anything because it's not working. But I like to push myself through it in whatever way, like, knock its head off. And then, oh, wow, that's something different now. Now I can see something, So for me, it's that pushing through.
Yeah.
even if what you're creating is horrible and it's not what you want to create, just do something. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just push yourself through that.
And keep going. But yeah, again, it's individual.
Absolutely.
Everybody works in a different way. So what will help someone overcome their creative block won't work for someone else. So if what you're doing isn't working to get around that creative block, try something else.
Absolutely.
Until you find the thing that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, be kind to yourself about it, because sometimes it just doesn't come and you need to just
Yeah.
be nice.
Yeah.
Let's focus for a second on thinking out of the box. What I've noticed on my course, because I also just graduated, I finished fine art, and I know that you finished MA in ceramics. Lisa just graduated right now, and Sarah graduated a year ago. In such courses, when you create art, I think they're really good at teaching you how to think out of the box. What are the things that you were the most surprised at your course? Something like the best mind shift that you were taught?
Do you know, George, want me to go? Because I think like, for me, it was that you can learn to be an artist, that you can learn to draw, that you can learn to make things. Like, I really didn't know that. And it sounds really, like, now when I say it, I think, good God, like, how did I even think hold that as a reality? But I really thought it was a gift that you got to be creative. You either had it or you didn't. I didn't realize that you could nurture it and grow it. And that's why that was the biggest shift, I think, for me on the course, that, oh, okay, so I can actually sit there for however many hours and continually draw faces till I can eventually draw a face really well. Yeah, so for me, that was the biggest, and it might seem really small and insignificant to some people, but for me, that was huge. Yeah.
We were talking about this yesterday, weren't we? We're born creative. We're born with the ability to problem solve, because otherwise we can't grow. Those neurons aren't going to make connections. Our brain isn't going to grow, and then we'll just stay this vegetable little baby that can't do anything. So we're born with the ability to do this, but we're taught not to.
Yeah.
So we get to preschool and we're amazing things all the time. We made a cake, so we're a baker, and we have these aspirations, and we're these really confident beings. But then we go into this process of schooling, which and it's two-way street. There's home as well, and if we're still told at home that no, you're brilliant, you're fantastic, what you did at school's great, you've learned that academic stuff, but you come home and then you do this. If you can be supported in some way, you can still keep that spark of creativity that goes forward. But if you're told at school that no, you need to do this, this, and this, and 2 + 2 = 4, and that's the only answer, and you start thinking like that.
Definitely.
So creativity is taken away. So it's not something that anyone doesn't have.
Everybody has it. That's it. Everyone has it.
It's finding your outlet.
Yeah.
And it's realizing that you can. And I think that's the same with anything. There's so many different problems in life. But if you stop thinking I can't, and you start thinking maybe I can, and you start looking for solutions, you can find them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what our work's about. It's about saying, look, this is, we've gone through something bad. We struggle with things, but we're still doing, and we're still here, and we can have a good life.
Yeah,
we can love what we do. Yeah. So you can too, and that's the message, really. The message is you're not alone. You're not, you don't need to suffer. You can
in silence.
Yeah, you're definitely not in silence. Yeah. You can live and live well and happily.
Yeah, definitely.
I have an idea. What you just said, that you can learn to be an artist. So many people think that it's something magical. You are born artist. You have talent or you don't have.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's something that you're just working on. Like, for example, if you cannot make a push-up, just try to do this. Try again. Then you will be able to make 1. Then you will be able to do 3. Good artists, or let's call them good artists, are just people who can make 10 push-ups. Just give yourself some time, and you will see that one day you will be able to make 20 push-ups or 100. Yeah. But what I want to say, what you, Sarah, mentioned, is that this support someone who can encourage you a little bit. What I've noticed is that if you look at the lives of any exceptional people, very often in their childhood or when they were a little bit older, they were just encouraged to try things. And no matter what results they had this positive feedback. So they thought, oh, this is something cool. I feel good about myself because people tell me that's something nice. Or even if it wasn't that good, but they were like still pushing them, that little push allowed them to keep evolving and actually become someone great. So my advice for any people listening to this podcast is just, if you have that fascination in something, it can be ceramics, it can be painting, or maybe music, poetry, tell your friend, someone who you trust, and just tell them how excited you are. And you can literally just ask them, can you please push me a little bit? Like, can you like check on me? Or like, I will just send you some of my works and just tell me what you think. You can lie a little bit, but I would really love if you please be someone I can trust, someone that can allow me to be who I want to be.
Yeah. And it's having a cheerleader. And the thing is, everyone needs a cheerleader, but what we also forget is we can be someone's cheerleader. You never know the power of what you're saying to someone. If you're looking at somebody's work, you don't have to love the work and think, I want to put that on my wall. But if you can look at that work and appreciate their effort, or how much time they put into it, or the little bits, maybe there's a colour they've used, maybe there's a certain brushstroke, maybe there's a certain, edge to the ceramic vessel. There's something in there that's positive. Tell them about it. Even if it's tiny, be like, that's just working. Or if it's the message that's coming across, anything that you can tell them that's, and be honest, don't just be like, oh yeah, I love it. That's not helpful. Just placating people isn't helpful, but saying, the effort that you're putting into this is incredible. The fact that you're doing this is incredible. This part of this is incredible. Or it might be totally amazing. And you're just like, wow, this is just, amazing. But those little words be enough to push someone to keep following what they need to follow and what they need to do. And that's, again, it's power. It's about having power, but the right kind of power. The power to, do good things, to spread positivity. I mean, my ambition in life is to leave my life having put more positivity in the world than negativity. We all do bad things and good things. We're a mix. Yeah, we're human. if you can tip the scales the right way, I mean, that's a good life. I think so too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. We can't leave. I mean, when we go, we take nothing with us. We leave a legacy, and if we made someone's day better somewhere, or made someone make a better choice in their life because they believed in themselves, I mean, that's amazing. It is. And I think the thing is with kids, when we're talking about sort of children growing up as well, like if you live in a healthy family, I'll say it like that, but if you live in a healthy family, you get all the necessary, my dog just entered the room. We get all the necessary encouragement. Mum looks at the drawing and she says, wow, that's amazing, beautiful colours, like go do this, or and that. But if you grow up in a family where you don't get that, which a lot of people do, we don't all live in perfect families, do we? And so that's when the pencil goes down or the crayons get thrown away, and we decide that that's not what we're going to do because there's no point. So it's that simple encouragement that we need and that can be nurtured from being a child. Well, the saddest thing is you lose faith in yourself. That's devastating to think that a child could think, I'm not good enough, no matter what it is that they don't think they're good enough for. That's a horrible thought. We're all, that's it. I think that's the thing with creativity, isn't it? We're capable of creating anything and being anything we want to be. We all are. We're all capable of that. And it's only life experience that changes that or knocks that out of you, So, but it's never too late. It's never too late. Pick up the pencil, or that picture, do it 100 times and then look back on it from the beginning and go, oh, actually, look how much better I'm getting at this. Pick up the paint, do something and just keep, even if you're not ready to show anyone or tell anyone, do it for yourself and then look back.
in a year and go, oh, wow, look how far I've grown. You know,
That's a good point. Yeah. Sometimes you can just create things for yourself. You don't always have to look for this external approval if you're good or not. Sometimes it doesn't matter at all. If you find it interesting, that's enough. If it's fun for you, that's enough.
Yeah, and it's good to get. We all need encouragement, don't we? We all want to be told that what we're doing is good. We all want that as well. But yeah, sometimes that's it's too hard to do that. Sometimes doing it on your own is the only way you can do it initially.
And sometimes it's not even about what you're creatively outputting. It's not about if it's good or bad or
that's it,
or any of those. It's about doing it. It's the process and it's how it makes you feel. And sometimes it's about what you're doing. Sometimes it's not even drawing. It's, you know, words, writing things down. It's that expression and that putting that out is really, it just stops us bottling things up. It's another way to express ourselves that stops us from ruminating things and making ourselves sick. It's healing.
Yeah.
I want to talk right now more about the point that you have mentioned, Sarah, that sometimes if it in your life there's no person who can actually encourage you or whatever, and you feel like you're alone with it, the way how you look at it from a different perspective, hey, maybe you can actually become someone like this or another person.
Yeah.
Like completely complete shift of mind. I can tell you what you just mentioned, that hey, sometimes you can just appreciate someone's effort. That's a really important thing, because I was reading this book. It was focused on the fixed mindset and growth mindset. When you actually appreciate someone's effort, not the results, but just the effort, this is more likely, it will make more likely someone to actually later put more effort into something and keep develop, because they're not being judged on the results.
No.
But if they are being encouraged because the effort that they put, they will actually do this again because they see, oh, I've done this, it matters.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Creativity is not a test, and life is not a test. Neither of those things are tests, and they all take effort. I mean, creativity is part of life. They're as far as I'm concerned, they're intricately connected. Life and creativity, they just go.
Life is creative. Yes, it's in motion.
We have children. We've made babies. You know, creativity is everywhere. Plants grow.
Problem solving, finding ideas, all of that is creativity.
It's life. Life is creativity. Yeah. But if you can, I mean, even if you're talking about housework, if you've slaved away tidying the house all day and nobody notices that you've just broken your back doing it, it's a little bit soul destroying.
Yeah.
If someone goes, oh, you've done all that. Oh, thank you. Do you know what? That made a difference to my day. Or do you know what? You put a lot of effort today. Well done. It's just, those bits of appreciation are huge. And if someone's done something, it might not look academically good or it might not look aesthetically pleasing, but if they've done something on paper, whether it's colours, it was important for them to do. They wouldn't do it if it didn't mean something to them or if it wasn't something that they felt they had to. So if you don't acknowledge the fact that they actually went and did it, when especially in this day and age, they could have just sat and watched a screen and zoned out of life. I mean, why are we not? We should be supporting that. We should be saying, yeah, you showed up.
And I think the thing is with the good, is it good or is it bad? Like, I think that we should throw that out the window.
Yeah, it's subjective.
What is good creativity? What is bad creativity? Okay, so somebody might want to wear the painting and put it on the wall because X person made it. But does that make the creativity bad if someone doesn't want to do that? Like, what's that about? It's like an outward expression of an internal world. And one of my earliest memories, which wasn't a pleasant one around art, was that we had to draw a picture of our family home, and mine was black. So the house was black outline, or everything was black. It was smudgy. It was horrible. It was black. It looked dirty. And I got told off really bad for making such a mess on my paper. And it's only when I was a therapist and going through my own therapy that I thought, I was showing them what my house was like, my home. It was dark. It was scary. I was afraid. And yet I was told it was bad. So then I wasn't going to tell anybody else that again, and it's like,
Well, you never know the impact.
Putting a label on somebody's work is just, taking away from what they've shown you, what's there. So, the good and bad thing, really, I feel really sensitive about that, you know.
Creativity is it's an opinion. It's the same as me saying, oh, you believe in that? Well, I don't, so no, you can't believe
Yeah, you're wrong.
Beliefs in your creativity are yours and they're your own and they're unique.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same as telling someone you don't like this part of their personality, you need to change it. No.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it should stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can have their own opinion. It's good to sometimes listen to it, but remember that whoever you ask, everyone can tell you something else. And it's especially visible on a artistic course where, for example, every time when I was talking with a different tutor and I was showing them exactly the same work, every time you have like different feedback, what to do, what not to do, what to try, what they think about it, what they like, don't like, every time a different story.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, another thing that I'm also very excited about to talk with you is this power. What we've just mentioned, that you can be the change that you're not seeing in the world. You can give that words of encouragement to other people. But in your case, the messages that we exchanged between each other, there I saw that you have really nice ambitions for the future. And to start with, you actually have this belief that you can make a difference. Can you please, because I know that you have right now a really cool ideas for collaboration, can you please tell me more about this collaboration and your mindset that you have, that you can actually make a difference?
I don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all can make a difference.
Yeah.
In anyone's life. All of us are actually really capable of being that one thing in someone's life that changes it forever. Yeah. And I think both Sarah and I, sort of what we want to work on is to create a centre, a community where people can come and get in touch with their own creativity.
Yeah. But this exhibition is the tip of the iceberg. It's the start of that. It's creating something that can speak to the people that come to it and say, you know, these conditions exist.
Yeah.
And people you know and love might have them. Let's talk about them.
Yeah.
Let's educate away.
Yeah, let's educate.
It is about educating, but not sitting down, listening to a talk. You know, that doesn't work for everybody. Whereas visuals, there's no language involved. I mean, we're not talking in a certain language. We're not talking at a certain age level. We're talking in a way that's, you know, art crosses boundaries, so many boundaries that can reach so many people. And I think that's where we're going. So by using sculpture and getting our sculptures to talk to each other,
yes,
in an exhibition, we want to sort of create that environment where people can come, get a feeling, and sort of immerse themselves in the work.
Absolutely,
as well as using that as a point to signpost. So there's certain things that are available in the area, help with dealing with, you know, whether it be therapy or charities that help, or information. And information is the key. The more information you give people, the more tools you're giving people to deal with things. So when I first developed PTSD, I felt like I was going crazy. I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand how I was feeling. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand any of the science behind what had happened to my brain and why it was functioning differently, or where this fight or flight response came from. I didn't have any clue. But every little bit of information that I learned, every time I saw something that told me about the different parts of my brain that were affected and how that changed me physically with my nervous system and mentally with how my brain now functions, it gave me, but again, power over it. Because if you have the knowledge, you're gaining power, and that gives you, I suppose, the comfort
Yeah.
And if we can give that knowledge to other people, we're giving them the power. And I think the thing is that everybody should have equal power over themselves. And they should own that. They should be confident in them. And I think through an immersive sculptural piece, and through, we want to do artist talks and some workshops as well, and really involve people and get them to experience clay and to experience that idea of making and sort of flushing things out that way. It's almost like removing toxins from the body, I suppose, sometimes the process of making things. It's about getting that stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, like, I want to carry on something through that I learned, I think, in psychotherapy, which was the power of the group. You know, it's individual therapy is powerful and it's good and it helps with one-to-one relationships, but something magical happens when you work in a group of people
that have the same
sort of issues. And it's sort of like you sit there, and as the therapist, many times I'd sit and watch people's lights come on and they might not even say anything in the group, and then a few weeks later they might say, that first time I came here, I realised that I was actually quite normal, the way my brain's working, the way I think about the world, the way I've experienced my life. And then I hear somebody else saying it in exactly the same way. Actually, there's nothing wrong with me. So, like, there's this community of people who are telling me how it's like to feel, you know, it's okay to feel like I do. And I guess it's that we want to get across in our art, isn't it? Is to create that environment where people can go, oh God, that's me. Oh wow. And then to have that conversation, or that's my friend. So to bring things to light that people don't generally feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. And it's never going to be something we'll be able to quantify. We won't be able to say we've affected this person, this person, this person, or 20 people have changed their minds in this exhibition. But I don't think we'll always need to know, you know, how many people we've affected.
No.
It's a beautiful thing to think, I did that and I've put that out there, and then I'm going to just, that's going to sort of ripple out.
Yeah.
If it causes one conversation, that's amazing. If it causes 10 conversations, wow.
Yeah, if it causes one person to just go, oh, thank God it's not just me. Wow.
You never know what place someone's in.
None of us do we?
No, it's a silly anecdote, but you don't know how much a difference your smile could make somebody.
Definitely.
Walking down the street and smiling at someone could be a game changer.
Definitely.
So every bit of positivity, every bit of help, every bit of knowledge, everything that we can impart to try and stop people from being in the dark places we've been, or to help them out of the dark places we've been. I mean, yeah,
definitely.
we need to do that.
Definitely. And I think being a creative, what I've learned is that actually I've been to therapy, like I said, for a lot of time to try and get rid of this oversensitive, over-feeling, over-emotional person that I am. And actually creativity allows all of that. You know, I feel things deeply, I see things differently, all of those things it allows me to be and do. And it's just showing people that they can do it too. You know, this is available to you all. This is, you know,
Everybody should have it.
Everyone, yeah. And knowing how I had to fight for mine, you know, I want somebody else to have it. You can do it. Even if some people say no, just do it. Just try it.
I want to add here something. What you've mentioned about this doing works and trying to make an impact. And sometimes, you will have no idea if it made any difference. But just because you don't know, it doesn't mean that nothing happened. You can have like different approaches about it. The approach that I'm not a fan of, in the past I was sometimes making that mistakes, but now I don't practice it anymore, is when you are trying to kind of lie to yourself and to tell yourself that, oh, actually it made this and this. I saw, for example, some of my friends when we were doing some exhibitions at our university, and in order to measure the impact of their exhibition, they were counting the number of people and how many hundreds of people were visiting their exhibition. The problem was that the exhibition was in a corridor, so people who were trying to get from one room to another, they were just passing by. But what they were doing, they were like writing down every single person and then telling themselves and maybe to other people how many people visited their exhibition. I mean, you will have higher statistics, but when you lie to yourself,
Yeah.
then this is how it starts generating some doubt in yourself, because you cannot lie to yourself. But what you can do on the other hand, you can just know that you have great intentions, that you actually want to make something meaningful. You cannot be sure what difference it made, but you shouldn't be focused on it. You should
Yeah.
focus on doing your job, on doing that thing that you are excited about, and then believing that actually there will be people who will be so excited about it. Most often I can tell you, people are really moved inside, but it very rarely happens when they actually come, stay in front of you, or they message you and they tell you that. That's a rare thing. If something like this happens to you, that's cool. But I can tell you, most often people are so moved just inside. And when they are moved inside, this is when later that generates some change in their life, because that influences their decision making. Whenever I visit an exhibition, now I have like a different approach, because I know how it is to have your own exhibition. In the past, I was like so inspired, and then for the rest of the evening, I was able to create like crazy, or to have a lot of notes. And I saw, like, after days, weeks, or even months, certain ideas were influencing my works, my decisions in my life. But I've never told the person who actually organized the exhibition. But now I try to share those experiences.
Yeah.
I try to show that appreciation. But know that just because you don't know, it doesn't matter that people are really moved.
It's kind of like, I mean, putting the work out there is kind of like having children. You create something, you make it, you round it off, but then you have to let go of it. It's not yours to control. And you can't control how people look at it, and you shouldn't control. I think, you know, you put work out there and sometimes you have a message behind it and you have a meaning behind it, and someone might see something else. And you know what? That's right too. Again, there's no wrong answers. Sometimes it will move people, but in a different way to you expect. And that's, you know, it's unexpected and you can't plan for it. But again, it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to also add one more thing. If your intention is to actually have some change, for example, if you are an activist, or you know about the issues in the world that you want to influence, that you want to change, or you are really passionate about sharing your fascinations, some of the things that I've realized that work pretty well to make an impact is, for example, what you said, what you've mentioned, educating people. If you, for example, organize a talk, it doesn't even have to be like a lecture when you are an academic and you're very professional. You can just call it a talk, and anyone can do this. And you can share something that is really important to you. And after that talk, you can have a group discussion when you can just discuss those things. When people talk with each other, this is when the ideas are really getting stuck in their head. And the experiences that they have, they're actually sharing with you and with other people. What also works is, for example, organizing exhibitions. It doesn't matter if it's really big or small. You have to start somewhere. But when you invite people to this space where they can see something, they can talk with you, they can talk with their friends, or sometimes they just have those internal conversations. What also works really well are, for example, workshops. Basically, the more interaction you have, the better. Because we are learning the most when we are actually experiencing something by ourselves. So workshops, that's a really nice thing. But also, even if you have artworks and you don't have a space to have a workshop or whatever, first, be creative. There's always a space.
Yeah.
But in case of the works, socially engaged artworks, if you try to stimulate those interactions in the form of a conversations or people somehow trying to play with your works, or even like writing things down on a paper, the more you stimulate your audience and you invite them to interact with your work or with you, this is how you make it change in someone's life.
Yeah.
What are your strategies?
Things. Yeah, well, just like you've highlighted, it's about going through those different avenues because, again, people are all different. So someone will love an exhibition, but other people aren't interested. They'll be more interested in, like you were saying, a talk. And then when
a workshop, actually getting your hands in the material, and that's where the change can occur.
That's powerful learning. I mean, when you mentioned workshops, because it takes up different senses, you're listening and you're seeing and you're touching and you're feeling, and you'll feel that the clay's cold and it's wet. And there's all these different things that go on. And it's been proven that when you activate more of the senses, when you're learning something, it's easier to retain that information. So, touch, smell, taste, sound, all mixed together. And then you've got a really, really powerful learning experience that stays with you in a much better way than just talking to someone or just, showing someone a picture. Yeah. So I think, all of those things are very, very relevant, very, very needed. And it's not just about, it's not just about educating, and it's not just about moving people. It's about all of those things coming together. I mean, you can have just an exhibition where it's showing your work and trying to just sort of show it off and sort of like get out there. And those are brilliant. I mean, everyone wants to see amazing work, but if there's something behind it that has a message that changes something, I mean, that's what's
really important, isn't it? To you with your work and me with mine.
Yes. It's about making that. It's always about the change. Always about just changing that little tiny thing that makes a difference.
Or touching someone in a way that they haven't been touched in that way with art before. I think that they see something of themselves in there, I guess.
Well, it's not just about the art. It's about the message. It's about the experiences, and it's about telling people that they are not alone. Yeah. They're never alone.
Absolutely.
Two questions regarding this topic. First we'll go to Sarah, and the second one will go to Lisa. Sarah, what would be your advice to people who think that they are completely powerless, that they cannot change anything, like my life doesn't matter, or even if I try, people just don't listen to me? What would you tell to the person who has no belief at all in making a difference?
I'd say start small. I've been there. It's a hopeless, horrible place. Everyone has been there at some point, whether it's as a child, as a grown-up, probably many times during your life where you feel you have zero power, where nothing you do matters. Go out for a walk and smile at 5 different people who look miserable. And if you get one smile back, you've just changed something. I mean, on a base scientific level, you've made them use 53 muscles in their face, so you've helped them lose a calorie or two. But stronger than that, you smiled at someone, and you try smiling and not feeling something. It changes how you're holding your body. It changes your posture. It moves your muscles. You're physically feeling something. And try yelling at someone whilst you're smiling. It's really difficult because doing this means that you're not as mad. It doesn't work. So try starting with a smile, and then do something that you love, and try find a way to combine those two. Combine doing something you love with making someone smile, or making someone, make a difference. You can find the tiniest ways. I mean, a smile is the place to start.
Yeah.
Start with a smile.
That small step is so true. I can actually tell you it works. If you want to start just with a smile, that's a really nice thing. I remember whenever I'm like really feeling good and I'm listening to the music, and then I see all those people around me who are in a bad mood, and they're like, look at me like this. I'm just smiling to them and like trying to share that energy of like, hey, you are so beautiful. The day is so amazing. You don't have to tell it. You just smile. Some people will be like indifferent, but then you will see someone like smiling. That's a really cool feeling. And I can tell you how it once happened to me, but in a very like kind of extreme way, when someone actually shouted. When I was walking down the street, and I was like just busy, in a like busy mood, a little bit like annoyed, whatever. And there was like a lady in front of me coming. I completely ignored her, and she was like 2 meters in front of me, and she's like stood, and she was like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" And she was like, "You look so cool, this green shirt and the green trousers and the glasses. Oh my gosh, such a good outfit." And I was like, "Thank you." I was like really confused. And that was like a really quick interaction. Then we just continued our lives. But for the rest of this day, I was like feeling so happy, so appreciated that someone just gave me this really honest and like weird compliment. I would completely ignore it, but then I felt so happy about myself. So you don't have to be that extreme. Start with the smile or anything, as you said, what you love, and then things will just grow like a snowball, hopefully.
Yeah. And it's about taking that what you just described is so powerful. She's changed your day. I mean, how many people do you come across in a day and you just flippantly walk past them or whatever? That one person had a positive impact on the whole of the rest of your day. That's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was just like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Second question right now to Lisa, which is the opposite. What is our creative potential? What do you think each one of us have the power, the ability to achieve in their life, to change, not only in their own life, but also in the lives of others? What is our true creative potential?
Wow, that's a good question. I think what we can create is pretty much anything that we want to create. And I think the restrictions that we've been put onto us by society about what we can do or what's written down that we can do, but I think we should do anything we want to do. We can create anything we want to create. And the only thing that stops us is ourselves. You know, we might think that we're getting restrictions over here from someone else, but it's our internal belief in that we can actually create whatever we want. We can make a difference in whatever we want. It's just about being open to that.
Yeah.
Being open to that and believing it and following it. And I think doubt is the biggest killer of creativity. You know? I think there's a little bit of God in every one of us. I'll say it like that because I'm a bit weird and cookie, but that's how I see it. I think creativity is whatever God is, whatever you believe God is. And we all have that in us. So it's endless.
Sarah, would you like to add anything to this question? Because I think it might be tempting to answer.
I mean, this is completely hit it on the head. What are your limits? I mean, look at that lady's limits. Society says don't annoy other people whilst they're walking along, leave them be. But she broke those limits. And what did she do? She created a huge positive impact. I mean, it does work both ways. You can do something that has a negative impact on everyone's day, but let's not be those people. Let's do something much more powerful, which is the positivity. Yeah. I mean, what can't you create? I mean, I'm a mother with kids, and I've worked as a painter and decorator, and I've worked in the retail. I plumbed in a bathroom. I have no plumbing experience. I used YouTube. I'm not a plumber, but I managed that. So what are our limits?
Yeah. I don't think there are any limits. We're told what our limits are, but we can break through that.
Our limits are our beliefs. Exactly.
And, you know, we're human beings and we are hardwired for relationship and connection and creativity. We are hardwired for that. And if you're feeling alone and lost and desolate and you don't believe you can, then reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out and find somebody who thinks differently.
Because, I mean, then it's amplified.
Yeah.
Then you've got two minds to come together, and then you create a potential, it explodes even further. And then you transfer that into a community. And I mean, well, where did our civilization come from? I mean, there's the proof of what you can achieve. You know, there's, you know, an entire huge network of humans across the world. I mean, an ant colony in France isn't going to have anything to do with an ant colony in America, but here's humans, and we travel and we talk and we communicate. Yeah.
And there's always someone who will listen to you. There's always someone out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
But and I think one thing that creativity has taught me as an add-on is just be who you are. Just be completely, unashamedly who you are and real. And if people don't like it, then they can trot off. And the people who do like it can be around you, and you find your tribe that way. And I think what we can do as humans is isolate ourselves so we feel alone and lost, and we forget that there are other people who feel just like us, who are just like us out there. We just have to find them. Yeah.
I also feel right now a little bit tempted to also share some advice. So what I can say is that we are all artists. Some of us create, for example, paintings, drawings, ceramics, but some of us create experiences, memories, and those thoughts that make a difference for other people.
Yeah.
And whenever you find any limits in your life, and you try to figure out what is your creative potential, my strategy to it is like, okay, for 5 minutes, let's forget about all the limits. Let's forget about that I don't have time. Let's forget that I don't have enough money. Doesn't matter at all. Let's imagine for a second that I am actually able to achieve anything. And let's think about those things. Completely like a thought experiment. Just allow yourself for a few minutes to think that way. Whenever you catch yourself on actually think, oh, it's not gonna work because of that, tell yourself, hey, 5 minutes, don't think about it, And then you realize after 5, 10 minutes, whatever, then when you say, okay, let's again turn on the critical thinking, then you realize, hey, why actually this not gonna work? Like, I already thought about it quite a lot. I already connected with this idea. Now, when I try to sabotage myself, just because you've already have this like a vague idea of something, when you turn on this critical thinking again, because it's necessary to actually interact with reality, but you will realize that actually some of that is just lie. Some of that is actually your limiting belief that you had.
Yes. Yeah.
Then you realize, hey, I can actually overcome it. Hey, actually, I found an alternative. Or you can think, maybe it doesn't work in that situation, but that can work there. To be more specific, you can think, I'm never gonna organize an exhibition with my works. Then you think for 5 minutes, hey, I want to have an exhibition in that city, that big, that many works, and I'm going to sell half of them, and I'm going to have amazing conversations and travel and I don't know, be somewhere on the social media, whatever. Then you turn on your critical thinking, and then you say, hey, why I cannot actually make that exhibition? I have artworks. I can create 10 more to make it more fun. I can actually ask my friends for a space. Why I am not able to apply for a few galleries? Actually, I can. Then you just still realize that all of those excuses that create a bubble around you, you can just...
Yeah, exactly. You can create your own reality to be whatever it wants to be.
And
But
that's for any part of our lives. I mean, if you're struggling with something, you can start making the change. And that is through tiny little bits, and you add it on and you stop thinking, no, I can't do this because that's silly. And you start thinking, do you know what? Actually, I can. And that's exactly it. That's the beauty of creative thinking.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. And I like that. If you're giving yourself those 5-10 minutes where you're like, okay, I know you're saying you can't do this, but just you sit there a minute. You used to do something similar in psychotherapy where you split out the parts of people like that and talk to the different parts, and, you know, great. Give them a voice, but also let them be quiet for a bit whilst you go on sorting your exhibition out and doing it exactly how you want to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as part of this conversation, I actually want to tell to people, you can do those exercises by yourself, but sometimes what is also very useful is to have a friend with you, someone you can talk with, and you will see what we just already discussed is that when you actually have those collaborations with other people, this is when there is this kind of exchange of enthusiasm, exchange of excitement. You can do this by yourself, but just try, talk with people, and you will sometimes realize that it's not that you are just trying to take something, but whenever you have interactions, you also give something. And people will be so happy to actually do something together. Because so many artists are actually close in their studio. They are just doing some stuff that they're passionate about, but feel sometimes a little bit uncomfortable to share it with the world. And then you have Lisa and Sarah who say, hey, I like your practice. Oh, I like your practice too. Let's do something together. That is so encouraging and like so warming inside. And then you will actually, you will realize someone actually likes my ideas. We have a cool vision. We have things to do in common. Why don't we just collaborate? What is your advice to start collaborations with other people?
I suppose my advice would be is if you are being true to yourself and speaking what your heart wants to do, what drives your soul, and if you're saying that out loud, you're going to find the people who want to do the same. So that's how it worked for us. You know, to be in a position where you go, this is what's really important to me, and I'm okay to share that here in this situation.
Yeah.
And somebody goes, me too. I think Because we didn't discuss. We spent a year working alongside each other, didn't we? Sarah's in the second year, I was in the first year. So we always liked each other.
Yeah. And we loved each other's work.
Yeah, but we never ever had a conversation about this until you'd left.
Yeah.
And Sarah had a baby and I went round to see her and we just both went, we started talking about what we wanted to do. And we were like, we both want to do the same thing. This is amazing. So I think we have an intuition. If we are allowing us, if we speak from our heart and we follow our gut, intuition, whatever you want to call it, we'll be taken to the places we need to be taken to.
Yeah.
We'll go energetically to the people who are going to help us grow.
Yeah.
Into what we want and what we want to be. If we hide ourselves, we can't do that.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you're never going to find someone if they're not there.
Yeah, you're too scared to show yourself. Yeah.
If you want it like list form, I think you've got to resonate with the work of the other person. Mm-hmm. There has to be something there, whether it's the aesthetics or whether it's the momentum behind it or the theory behind it, that says something that either complements your work or that says the same kind of things as your work, has the same message or has the same aesthetic. So there has to be a connection there. You have to like the other person.
Yeah, that's really important.
If you don't like them, you're not going to get on.
It's going to be a different kind of work, that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's not going to work. So, someone that you can get along with, someone that you can have open conversations with as well. You don't want to be sort of talking to someone and being worried about speaking your mind. You know, you don't want to be horrible, but you want to be honest.
Yes, absolutely.
So a safe working environment is super important. Someone that you feel safe to work with, safe to be yourself with, and safe to be honest with.
That's the key thing, isn't it? The safe to be yourself with.
Yeah.
So I can say whatever I want to Sarah. I know that. and you hold it. And I think you know that the same way, you know, that we can be ourselves, and there's no fear around that. If I'm not feeling it, if I'm feeling a little bit scared about something, I know I could say to Sarah, I'm feeling this right now. And I think that's so important if you're collaborating with someone, that you've got to be able to be real and know that the other person's going to just, okay, get that. Yeah, I'll hold it for now. And it's that passing, isn't it? Yeah. Between and respecting each other.
Yeah. And respect each other's differences as well.
Absolutely.
No two people are the same. There's going to be differences in opinion. There's going to be differences in wants and needs. There's going to be differences in home lives. And you've got to remember that as an artist, you're one person, but then you're also what you are at home. So there might be time constrictions and constraints. Yeah. There might be monetary constraints. And it's about working around all those different things and working together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and being real. I know I keep saying it, but that is it. If you can be like that and say, like you say, I'm no money, I can't come and meet you for a coffee, or I've got, you know, or I'm feeling really crap today and I've been crying all night, or whatever, that you can just do that with the person. How else can you create with someone if you're not that open and real?
Yeah.
And have the same values. Yeah.
One more point also to remember about is like, do not assume that the other person might not like what you do, and don't be scared. You will not know until you actually have that interaction. Yeah. So if you are looking for that safe space, just expose yourself a little bit, share your practice. Don't be afraid to talk about the things that you are passionate about. And then you will see that people who have similar interests, they will be actually attracted to those things because they are aware of it. Otherwise, if they are not aware of what you're doing, then how do you like connect? And then once you have those interactions, this is how you will verify if this is a nice match or not. Yeah. So now, taking advantage of this opportunity, I can encourage people to join our creative community that we have. There you can connect with other people. I also encourage you, Lisa and Sarah, to also join it. You might find some more cool people to collaborate with. Yeah. But have those conversations, have this exchange of ideas, and just see what other people are doing and be curious. Because if you are curious, then other people will be curious as well. And there is nothing more cool when you are actually showing some interest in the practice of other person. Okay, there is one more question from me for this episode, where I would like to ask you, how can we connect with our creativity? Let's say if you are an adult who is busy, maybe you are a parent, or maybe you have a full-time job, or maybe you have a period in your life when you are very, very not feeling good, when you feel depressed. What are the easiest steps for us to connect with our creativity when we consider ourselves as not creative people? How would you answer this question?
Just try something. Try it. That was my experience. I wasn't creative. I was in a very low place, and I just tried it. Regardless of how terrified I was, I just tried it. And just try one thing. And also be aware that when you're decorating your living room, you're being creative. When you're cooking dinner, you're being creative. When you're finding your route to work, or whatever you're doing in your day is creativity. And if you can't find something to, the strength or whatever it needs to pick up and draw, notice when you're being creative in your life. Naturally. And appreciate that. Because to me, that's the start. That can be the very start. Just know that you're doing it. Whether you like it or not, you are creating.
I mean, it's also handy, I find, just having I just have a tiny little sketchbook. I think it's like A7 size, something really small that just fits in my coat pocket. And I always have that and a little pencil in my pocket or a pen. And sometimes it just starts with making a mark. You don't have to have a vision in mind. There's a lot of this, having a vision and having inspiration. Yeah. Sometimes you don't need that, especially if it's just an output. So make a mark. And then once you've made a mark, just ask yourself the question, what next? Are you drawing into that mark? Are you adding colour to that mark? Are you making that mark into something you're looking at? Does that mark become a thing? Has it got a life of its own? You can just, doing that, you're just asking a couple little questions and just doing something with your hand. And when I say make a mark, scribble.
Yeah.
Scribble a quick line. You might see something in it. And if you struggle with the pencil because you're too refined, get a piece of charcoal, because it's like clay. It's so visceral. There's nothing between. You don't have to hold it in a certain way like a pencil, because when you're holding a pencil, you're having to think about how your brain's doing a lot of work to hold it. Whereas if you're holding a piece of charcoal, it's natural. You're not thinking about that at all, not even on a subliminal level. And you can just, it flows. And you're not just using your wrist like this, you're using your whole arm. And that then is another extension of flow from your body. And that mark could turn to it.
Yeah. Could I just add as well, if you don't know what it is you want to do, think about when you were a kid. Like, what did you love doing when you were a child? Yeah. What was it that brought you joy? Did you love, like, I mean, for me, connecting with clay was like, it brought me straight back to a memory of sat near a brook where me and my friend had dug clay out and sat there making trinkets. And as soon as I touched clay as an adult, it was like, wow. And I think it's remembering what you loved from your childhood and think, well, okay, I like to draw, or I like to do this, and try it. Start doing it. Do it small. Just, yeah.
When you were a child, you were most honest.
That's it. When we're kids, that's who we are. That's before the world has knocked the edges off us, have made us into. But yeah, be a child. Be a child. Think about what you loved then and just do it with the same childish abandon. Can you imagine? All these people running around, skipping in fields, making red pies.
And we can be children our entire lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, what more joy can you have than that?
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share, discuss? Anything that we didn't mention?
I can't think of anything.
No, I can't.
I think just as a final message.
You can share the final message to our audience.
Yeah. Make some change. Make some positive change. Everyone can do it. Yeah. Do some homework. Everyone go away. Make a tiny bit of change. Yeah. Make a mark on paper. Smile at somebody. Mm-hmm. Tell someone they've done a good job cleaning their house. Or your house.
Yeah.
Making your tea. Be grateful. Those things are powerful. Take some power. Positive power.
Positive power. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And remember that we all need to be in some relationship with another. And if you're feeling lonely, or if you're feeling scared, or whatever you're feeling, reach out.
Yeah.
There's always someone. There will always be someone there. Even though you tell yourself there won't be, and that you're on your own and nobody wants to know, reach out. Reach out. The internet's a fabulous place. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That was a great conversation. So many things. And I have to say, I'm very, very positively surprised. And all of those things that you went through and the way how you identify yourself so positively, that's a really great thing that you have. And the way how you authentically express yourself and your works, all of that, it's so, so amazing. You are two very, very beautiful people, and your works are beautiful as well. Again, I encourage everyone to take a look at the works that Lisa and Sara are creating. And, well, I can only wish you all the best for your collaboration. I'm looking forward to what the future will bring. But with all of that passion that you have so far, I know that you're going to have fun. I know that you've done it.
Yeah, we'll enjoy it.
And just remember to think out of the box and to keep sharing that positivity and this potential of making the change. Keep sharing that with other people.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and that you have a lot of takeaways that you can apply in your own creative life, which can always become even more creative. If you have any feedback for me, how I can improve this podcast, I would really appreciate it. I'm always experimenting and trying new things. Any recommendations, any feedback, positive or negative, that would be very, very appreciated. I invite you to join our creative community where you can connect with like-minded, creative, positive people. You can share your works, you can share your inspirations, and hopefully there you can find some people to collaborate with. And the last thing is that if you would like to become a speaker in this podcast, if you have something that you feel very passionate about, or the experiences that you think other people will find valuable as well, please let me know. I'm looking for people with very creative ideas, with very unusual way of thinking. So please just contact me and you might become the future speaker in the Creative Minds Lab podcast. That's everything from me. I wish you a creative and beautiful day.